You can watch with Ola. Okay, yeah. So now he said, yeah. So Bill just got your request, and he's just waiting for the.
Bill McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I already I already approved them.
Okay. So then when it starts, there'll just be a link on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it started already. Let's see here. I'm on my new computer. So let me go on my phone. I'm going to try to go at the same time. All right. I see myself already. This. All right. So we have a few people already. I don't know why it's not showing both of us, but I guess at some point, and I've seen this happen before, Al, where when you talk, I guess it will show your face. Can you just say something real quick, Al?
Yeah, sure. I'm here. I don't know if you can if you see me or not.
Let's see here. I had this issue before. Yeah, it turned to you when you did speak. So that's good.
Oh, okay. So you could see
there.
me when I
Yeah, Chad. I don't know if anyone is out there that actually knows how to set up Zoom so that we can have the side to side. There might be some setting here under video, but unfortunately, I don't know how to do that. But anyway, welcome. This time in English, we're gonna do a live Zoom with Al Jurgela. And we've announced it for the last couple of days. It's a great pleasure to have perhaps, for sure, one of the greatest vintage football. I'll call it football. To others, it will be soccer cards and stickers. Al is well known in the collecting world, and it's again not just a pleasure but a great honor. Al, you want to say your good evenings and actually good night in Portugal?
Yeah, I know. Since you have a lot, thanks, Paul, for having me. I know there's a lot of friends and collectors from Portugal, so certainly happy to be here and talk about one of my favorite collecting subsegments, which are Portuguese cards and stickers. For such a small country, there are some of my absolutely favorite all time, not just players but also collectibles, cards, and stickers.
Great. Al, give me just an opportunity here to show everyone that's listening in and watching us that they'll have an opportunity to get this Figo Rookie. I typically do this at every live Zoom that I do. I like people to pay close attention to what we talk about, right? From beginning till the end. And then I'll randomly ask 2 questions at the end, and they're going to have to, the first person that's going to answer correctly to the 2 questions all in the same post, they'll get this Figo Rookie from Upper Deck 1993, not 1994. If you notice at the top, this will be your right. Upper Deck did release a few different editions just before the World Cup in 1994. And on this particular one, there were a ton of Portuguese players, including you remember João Pinto that had that incident in the World Cup 2002 where he actually literally punched a referee in the stomach. Got thrown out of Portuguese soccer, obviously. But there were Futre is also on it. A bunch of Portuguese players. So I'm going to give this away at the end, but only after they answer correctly to some of the questions that we're going to be asking. We have
Paul. That's hard. It's it's Saturday. You shouldn't be having quizzing people.
Well, but I can't just give it away. I want to make sure that people are paying attention to what we talk about. And again, I like doing this because people want to get something in return for spending time with us. Not that you won't be sharing a ton of knowledge with everyone here tonight, and that's the reason why I have you here. For all those that don't really know who Al Jurgela is, I did on my first mention, on my first post about this live Zoom that we're doing tonight, I mentioned that he's the proud owner of that 1957 Pele rookie that you saw recently on Golden Auctions that sold for tons amount of money. I mean, 180K, that's unbelievable. It's great for the, for collecting. I want to thank you and give you my congratulations on that purchase. How does it feel? First of all, let's start that off, Al. How does it feel to own the only, I believe it's the only graded, right? A 1957 Pele.
Yeah, I mean it's the only graded. I think there are more copies. I've seen it through the years. It's for those of you, if you can actually see the screen, this is what it looks like. Although I think you can see on my Instagram, which is elray_collection. You can see probably better pictures, but I mean, it feels great as a collector, right? I think, you always want to collect everything that there is, really. And of course, I've been highly focused on Pele since I started collecting soccer cards about a little more than a decade ago, maybe 12 years ago, kind of as a part-time job almost, trying to get, a 57 was always very elusive. There aren't many, copies out there. Even a lot of the 58s are hard. So, to get one, and frankly, to have the support of my wife to pay the market rate, what was really good to kind of, fill that hole, because, I have a very wide, broad collection, but that one's always eluded me.
Got you. And so that we don't get too deep into this, my first question to you was, how did you get started with this, and where did you draw the interest for special vintage football cards? How old were you?
I mean, I grew up just collecting, baseball and Star Wars and stuff like that, but I always played soccer, and I just loved the game. And then I lived out of the US for a long time, and the US doesn't really have a rich soccer history. But when I was a kid, also I was in Southern California, and we had the California Surf, so the Cosmos came to town. Johan Cruyff came and played at the LA Aztecs. So I went to see a few of those games, and I was just kind of amazed. These were big names. I played in some tournaments as a kid, in Europe, even as American. So, it was just something I always loved, and I never knew much about, the stickers, until, I just started researching it right around, well, I don't know, before 2010. And I'm like, there's got to be some really interesting collectibles around the world and stickers. And I'd always seen those World Cup albums where everybody sticks the Panini stickers in every 4 years, and it was just, one thing led to another. When you start to learn and start to go down these rabbit holes of different countries, how they collect their cards and stickers, and you start off with the names that you knew, right? So yeah, it was the modern day players, but it was also the players that I saw as a kid,
Right.
Maradona in the '86 World Cup, or some of these names of people that I actually physically saw: Beckenbauer, Pele, and so that's kind of where the interest started. And then researching things, it just leads to one to another to another, and it ends up being a little bit of an obsession.
Right. But do you recall what was the first World Cup that you actually witnessed, from beginning to end, with all the frenzy of the World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, it has to. I mean, '86 has to be it. And it's kind of weird, right? In the US, I mean, Paul, being here in the US, back in the '80s, we didn't have almost any television
Right.
of soccer, football, right? And so, and then the '82 World Cup, even though I'd say I had some interest, it whatever, however old I was, 11, all the games were in Europe, different time zone. You didn't get anything. And even in '86, when the World Cup's in Mexico, how we would watch the games, this is crazy to think about, but literally we'd have someone in Mexico, in Tijuana, video record the game, and then somebody would drive the games up to, Orange County,
That's
and then we'd
crazy.
watch them on a VHS because it wasn't on TV.
Right.
Right. So if you had that interest, and then all the drama, of course, Maradona and England and the Falkland Islands and the
And the
Hand of
hand of
God,
God.
and it was just so crazy and amazing, and that's where it was,
Mhm.
for me, just kind of memorable, and and
Sure.
and and the most memorable part's probably just the fact that that it was so hard to watch.
Yeah. Do you recall if at that time were there Panini stickers that you collected from that World Cup, or not yet?
Yeah,
Not at that point.
you couldn't, I mean, you couldn't, at least as far as I know, you couldn't really buy them. You could get them if you went to Mexico, but
Oh,
you
right.
couldn't, I don't recall any real soccer cardboard products truly available until the 94, 93, 94 Upper Deck
Mhm.
stuff, in the
Gotcha.
US. So, I've had to go back, and I have done this and gone back and get the Panini albums from 1970 and all the
Mhm.
stickers from, 70, 74, 78, all the World Cups, because
Right.
it's just, I mean, and even before Panini did them, there's some Brazilians that did them in the night for the 1950s. So I try to go back and get everything I can. There's some Uruguayan pogs from the 1930s, so I try to get as many of the sets I can from the World Cups. It's just a special time around the world, and living
Yeah.
around the world, I don't think most Americans realize how big of a deal the World Cup is.
Not back then, but I think after '94, I mean, up until this day, from what I think, it's still the highest attendance ever,
Yeah,
right? So, and then when they're going to have it again in 2026,
26.
it's sure to beat it. That's a fact. Now, as far as actually ripping these Panini packs, did you do that at all? After those years, or it wasn't something that you actually had?
Yeah, I mean, the first time, I think my wife is Mexican, and she ripped Panini packs, although she'll say that her brother stole them from her. Um, so she ripped Panini packs her whole life. And so when our kids kind of, got, I think 2006, we ripped a few, packs, in
So
Germany.
those were the first that you
Um,
remember then, ripping from the World Cup.
yeah, I mean, it was, but I'm an adult. It was more like, hey, the
The
kids and my
kids.
wife would come back from Mexico and had a bunch, and they start to get distributed here, more broadly with South Africa.
Mhm.
And then, starting to rip, those packs and fill those albums. So, but I mean, growing up, ripping would mostly be baseball,
Gotcha.
just because there wasn't the product, right? I mean, I think
Yeah. Mhm.
you're one of the first, people to really import stuff that you could only get in Europe,
Yeah.
here, because there wasn't as much interest, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I love about. I mean, this last year has been crazy. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that, but how the interest has totally changed. There's been a huge shift in
Mhm.
interest in not just the game with television, EPL, just Champions League. You can watch every game, but you now have an interest in the collecting that has never been there, really.
Yeah. And we both have our theories about that, and we'll get to that further. But I'm going back to when you said, were you in actually you were living in Germany at the time of the 2006
No,
World Cup?
2006, we were living in Singapore, actually, but it was, again, we've been all over the globe, and it's just, even though it's not, it's the World Cup in the US, when it's not in the US, like outside of 94, it just doesn't have the same fever that literally every
Mhm.
country has, even if they're not a World Cup participating team. It's
Mhm.
it's kind of bizarre. Like, I've been in 98, I was in Brazil for the final, very sad day in Brazil. And just, but the whole, like, fervor for the 2 weeks up to that was just crazy in Brazil. And I can say even Singapore, it was crazy. And Singapore is never going to be in the World Cup,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, but they have the connection to the UK and a soccer, football culture. So, I think that's kind of the first. Those are some of the first, you
Mhm.
know, feelings of, like, when you're living outside of the US, that I just don't think
Sure.
people fully appreciate. I unfortunately didn't get to go to to the only one that I've been to is 94, like in person.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned also 2006. You were ripping some of those sticker packs with your kids. You didn't get a hold of any of the Panini trading cards from the World Cup back then, because as you know, those prices went just absolutely crazy last year.
I know. And it's a bummer because they're beautiful cards, and I
They
didn't
are.
get. I mean, I love the embossing down the side. The
Mhm.
design is really nice. I'm like, okay, well, those popped, and then I figured I'd come back and get them later. And unfortunately, I think I may be out of the market. Those are
Yeah.
just really, really they've really done well.
Yeah.
And so have the other trading cards, that were, I think, obviously issued in much shorter supply than the stickers.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And you're right. When you compare the product that Panini made with from 2002 to 2006, I mean, it's like night and day. They did a really good job. I was fortunate to get my hands on a few cases from an eBay seller from Australia. Somehow he had tons of that product, and I even warned some people on my group. I said, "Listen, guys, this is a sleeper. You know, get some, I forget how much it was. I believe 60 bucks I bought each box. And as you know, now each box, from what I understand, is like 20 times more expensive. So that was a good one, but it only lasted about a month or two. And then that was it. The product just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, when they see the jump like that, which has been just a crazy year, like I
Everything.
think everybody has this fear of missing out, right? FOMO, like, oh my God, it's happening. And then everybody rushes into something, and then the prices just, establish it at new levels.
And it was funny, Al, just before this, we were chatting before we were on here, and you mentioned how someone that I told you about was ready to pick up a Mega Cracks box from Messi's rookie, and he was willing to come to New York and meet up with me and with 15,000 in cash. And thank God I said no. And you remember that within a week or two later on Golden, a box goes for 40, 43 or 44,000. I was like, it's just unbelievable. But I want to remind you, I went through some of my text messages with you back from August. You made a similar great deal. I mean, we both did well, obviously, at the time. But that BGS 9 Mega Cracks, as you know, if you go back and look at the price we negotiated,
I know
it's literally gone up maybe 6-7 times today. And you were talking about 8 months ago. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I
What do
mean,
you think about the market? It's crazy.
It is. I mean, and that's and part of you has to worry about it. So after, as honestly, I didn't have a 9, and that bothered me, as I had told you
Right.
much before. I'd spent most of my time in vintage, and I had a few Ronaldo and Messi rookies, but I'm always like, oh, I'll go back and get a 9 or a 10. Most people are focused on those. I'll just go back and do it at some point. And then at some point you're like, oh my gosh,
Gonna reach.
I need to get one because I may never get one. But the funny thing is, so this in December in HA, I got this one,
Oh, nice.
right?
You got that off of what then?
At Heritage,
On Heritage.
right? And it was like, I think it's like 16 or 17 all in. And I'm like, okay, well, now I can feel really good. It's as there's been kind of this gap in BGS versus PSA, and then to get it at 9.5 for 17, I'm like, oh, that seems kind of high, but it's probably worth it for the long run. 1 month later, the PSA 10 goes for more than 200, and I'm floored.
And was it a BGS 9.5, or was it also a PSA 10 before that went for like 40,000, I believe?
That was a PSA 10. I think there were 2 different ones that were in the 40s. But it was just, I mean, to go from 40 to 210 or whatever it was, that blew my mind.
It's crazy. We don't know when it will stop. We'll go back and talk. We'll come back to talk about the current market, but I want to touch base on a few things. This group that I belong to, actually that I created, there's a lot of Portuguese people, and a lot of people don't know that. But you got an awesome collection of Portuguese players, including Eusebio. Can I just say a little bit that in Portuguese?
Yeah.
Allow me. O Al Jurgela é indivíduo que tem muitas cartas, não só antigas de outros jogadores que não sejam portugueses, tipo Pelé, Cruyff, Maradonas e companhias, mas também tem uma coleção muito boa de Eusébios, que por vezes tem trocado com alguns colegas aqui no nosso grupo. Al, you want to show off some of the stuff that you have, which is really amazing, and you have it all graded, or most of them graded, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a good portion of it graded. I have way more, like literally like stacks and stacks of, ungraded
Especially.
stuff. So I just, there's some amazing rare, rarely seen ones as well. So, but I have, here's one from the 70s. This one I love, with when his hair gets kind of big. So the Eusebio, when I first kind of got into it, and I made a list of the players that I wanted to collect, that is now expanded to like 450 or so players.
Wow.
I thought his first card was this, which is pretty typical.
Panini,
You'll find
63.
the Panini one from and this one has the rarer Valida back. Yeah, sorry, I was getting some reflections here. So I thought that this was the earliest card.
And a lot of people, believe it or not, Al, I've argued with people over this. They say, oh, yes, the rookie. No.
Yeah, I know, but back in the day, people were like, okay, and people still collect, and I understand, they're like, hey, this is the first Panini, so I'm gonna go with that. And then later I started to find out, I was searching, and I found out a number of some people selling some things on Tolo Coleccion in Spain, and then that pushed me over to kind of research a little bit of the Portuguese albums, and I'm like, okay, well, let's go start to look at that. And then I found a whole bunch of albums from the 1960s, or at least stickers from the 60s, that I didn't even know necessarily what they were, but I just thought that they were really interesting. So I had, obviously a ton of these were some graded ones. This is the Estrellas,
and that's the rookie, right?
Yeah, this is one of the rookies. There's actually 3 rookies. Here's another rookie I don't have graded.
Okay.
And then there's
looking to grade them soon.
Astro. What's that?
You're looking to grade them soon?
Yeah, I think so. It's the wait times are so long for all of them. These are all early cards that predate the Panini. And one of the things I'm actually doing, Paul, I don't know if I had mentioned it to you, was I love some of the coloring on these. They're thin, they're fragile, and they're rare, right?
For the technology back then, it's really nice card and nice stickers, right?
And they're hard to, most of them are pasted into the albums. But what I'm also doing is since I have my collections are so kind of large, what I've been doing is doing player videos.
Okay.
On YouTube, I have a channel. It's called Epic Cardboard, and I've just done a few of them so far. But certainly Eusebio is one of the next ones to go, and you'll see. I just have so many, so many different. Really, I love the coloring on these. These are all they're all low grade, right?
It doesn't matter.
But it's kind of like what you said, the other day when you were doing your break. You go, hey, these are real, they're authentic, they're rare, the coloring is amazing, and just these Portuguese stickers are really tough. Remember, Portugal has a very small population, the distribution's small, and most of a few albums made it, but not all of them did. And to find stickers that are unstuck or didn't get damaged severely, it is one. So I have probably about, we could probably fill an hour just going through Eusebio cards.
Absolutely. I can see you have a wealth of just Eusebios there, and all of those that you need to grade. It's unbelievable. I'm just going to pause real quick, Al, if you allow me to. I want to tell people, remind them that they're free to ask any questions that they want for especially for you, Al, because it's an opportunity for them to pick on your brain at this point and get your opinion on things in general. So please feel free, anyone. It could be in Portuguese too, and I'll translate to Al, because I know, Al, you understand a little Portuguese, but that will be another topic. A year from now, I want you to make sure you develop your Portuguese well enough to be able to handle a Zoom live on here with this group in Portuguese. I'm just going to show you what I didn't tell a lot of people is that you see this Eusebio, and you can see that he's very white over here. He was either sick or this is a fake 67, 68. I sent that together with my batch of cards to Beckett, and it came back unauthentic. And done me, I mean, I included this with the one that I got graded, and you could clearly see the face is very white out. So, and that's one of the reasons, like I said, I like to send them out, because you want to make sure that you get the authentic product. You know, you get your money's worth. So
yeah, and you know that those, you know, there's a number. This is one of the sad things, right? As prices have increased, it's really increased the you know, the profitability of making fakes,
yeah,
and that's
yes.
really bad for collectors as more and more, you know, fakes kind of get out of there, which makes me feel, you know, really good about, you know, the vast majority of my collection I acquired when these were not very expensive and there was no incentive to fake them. So I feel, you know, really good about you know, most of my collection.
Yeah. We just got a question right now from Rui Carvalho, which oddly enough, we had him on the last Zoom. Rui is a great collector, also from Portugal, and he does a lot of selling of items on his Facebook group that's called Clube dos Cromos, I think it is, Rui, if you can confirm. He's asking you, Al, where did you find these Eusebios? And I know you already mentioned that you started off with that Todo Colección website from Spain, but that developed into coming in direct into the Portuguese market, and you found some people, some collectors, including some that I know are watching it here live, but I'll let you go ahead and name a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, look at, I think that it's, you know, I'm a collector, and I think other collectors, you know, whether they're in Portugal or Brazil or Spain or the UK, kind of know a collector when they see one, you know, and they, you know, I think there's a joint, you know, help and love of collecting, right? So I think you know, I have made friends through people in your group, through the vintage, you know, card, you know, prices group, and you know, I think we all try to, you know, help one another and you know, be fair to one another. So I've probably, you know, I've probably bought from 10, 15 different people
Wow.
in Portugal. You know, again, over a long period of time. You know, I did want to shout out to Fernando Coito,
Porto.
yeah, who really helped me kind of hit one of the last big people that I had on my want list that I just couldn't get for years. You know, I've been following Peroteo, you know, his prolific goal scoring, and I just could never ever find any cards for him. And so, you know, I asked Fernando to help me out and go, you know, dig around, and he just found me some amazing, you know, stuff, like, you know, these types of early
I'd never even seen
stuff.
those.
What's that?
I hadn't even seen those.
Yeah, I mean, I just think these are just so amazing. So, you know, he was instrumental in helping me fill some of these you know, gaps that I had. But you know, I've bought from a ton of different people, and you know, between Google Translate my Spanish and, you know, people's English, you know, we find a way to to make it happen. And I'm, you know, I just love, it's one of those, again, I collect from all over the world, but I'd say two subspecialities that I have are really getting into the Portuguese stickers and Argentine stickers. It just those seem to captivate me more with the coloring, the albums. You know, some of the players like the Coluna, you know, gets no respect from a collecting perspective. Aguas gets no respect. I mean, I read about these players, the cinco, you know, the five violins, you know, you know, from Sporting. So you read about these players and you get, you know, I don't know, you get attached, and nobody talks about these
Mhm.
players, at least in the United States.
No, you're right. As we're talking here, Fernando Couto is saying you are welcome, my friend. So he's on watching. And in the meantime, my clone, there's another Paulo Silva out there. It's not me. I guarantee you. He's saying, Al Jurgela, since what age did you start collecting? And I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly the year, right? You were mentioning.
Yeah, collecting is kind of like a lifelong disease, right? So I did Star Wars cards,
You called it
you
a
know.
disease.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, you have to embrace it. You have to own it. But yeah, so I started, probably like 5 or 6, but I literally didn't have any soccer cards or stickers like really that I collected. I think we pasted some in the albums in 2006 and stuff like that. But
You started with baseball, you said, right?
yeah, when I first started baseball and Star Wars,
Oh,
and
Star Wars.
then
So, Star Wars is up right now. It's like crazy, supposedly.
yeah, I never got back into them. I wanted to, but everything's up, Paul.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right. Even WWE and so on. I mean,
yeah, uh,
what do you call those Cabbage Patch cards?
yeah, garbage pail, tennis, golf,
It's all over the
everything
place.
is off the charts.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, since we're in the Portuguese, and obviously we got the majority of people. By the way, you mentioned the group Vintage Football Cards, and I want to thank, I forget who the admin is, but
Mark,
I want to, was it? Yeah.
yeah,
I want to give a shout out and thank him really for having allowed me to post the announcement of this live Zoom that we were doing today. And we got a ton of people coming over from the group, and it's I really want to thank them here on live and say that I appreciate that. But since we're still in the topic of Portuguese, if you don't mind, and I'm sure you're already aware of some up and coming players, from the Portuguese market. I mean, Trincão scored again today. What do you think of these new guys coming up and the potential that they have to develop like players like Ronaldo and Messi? We're talking about Trincão, João Felix. There's Andre Silva playing in the Eintracht Frankfurt and so on. I mean, it's
yeah. Look at
hard.
the it, you this is kind of mixing a couple different of your questions, because when I did mostly baseball in the 1980s, a lot of it was on these young next up and coming players, right?
Mhm.
And then you realize that there's only one Cristiano Ronaldo, right? There's only one, these are generational talents.
Yeah.
And to start to believe and frankly pay the prices as if they've accomplished something, like I love watching, Felix play, right? He may not necessarily be in the right system, but he has talent. But will any of these players become the next first? I think it's really unrealistic expectation. And if 40 years of collecting has taught me one thing, it's that 95% of these kids, because they're all really young, those are
Really,
the
they
ones we're
are.
excited about,
Yeah.
will not make it.
Yeah.
And they may have a long career, they may,
Right.
but if they get to like a Figo level, that's a
I,
huge deal.
that's who I compare. When people ask me my opinion about these João Felix and Trincão, so if they get to be almost as good as Figo, you know, take it.
That's
For
amazing.
Portugal's sake. Sorry,
Yeah,
really, because they'll never be. I mean, like you said, it's a generational thing. We're not going to find another Ronaldo or Messi because at that level they've been so not good. They've been great for all those years. They've avoided injuries. They've taken care of their bodies, which is very important. And here's the thing, and at least for Ronaldo, I think he still has that hunger. He's going to have that hunger. I believe he's going to play in 2026. I really do.
ooh,
I do. You don't.
yeah.
You don't see, we're talking
He's
5 years from now. He'll
not,
be 41.
yeah. And that's the one thing. I don't want to like admit it, especially if my wife is watching. But he's stacked, right?
Oh,
He takes care of himself,
no
unbelievably.
wonder.
He's so disciplined, and I think yeah, he may make it. And these guys, it's so unrealistic.
Look at
You,
Ibra.
yeah, the one thing that I think is when you're buying these prospects, and I have the only Portuguese young star that I've been buying
Collecting.
a little bit of is Jao Felix, but I it's like 2% of my holdings, right, are prospects because you know the probability. I think you said something really important. Avoiding you can have all the talent in the world,
Absolutely.
but you get hurt, and most people do. It's a conflictive sport,
Mhm.
and you're going to end up. I mean, look at Ansu Fati, right?
No, yeah,
He's
it could be done. We don't know. We might never be the same player again.
right. He three knee surgeries, and
Um,
and what is he 20? So
Very young.
and then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have to score 35 goals a year if I'm going to
Not
hit
going to happen.
Messi, and I've got to do it for the next 15 years
Yeah,
or
consistently.
more. And you're like, okay, on a knee with 3 surgeries, and then guess what? I'm going to pay $25,000 for
It's a mistake.
a rookie, of his. So to me, none of this. And again, I'm kind of old school anyway. I really love these. The technology wasn't that great, but I love that. I love the history, and this is what was nice at the time, and I appreciate it, and how this thing survived, and how we get here, 60 years later, and how this little piece of paper, that was stuck in an album ended up in South Carolina. I love that.
Yeah, you're mentioning knee surgeries, and you mentioned Eusebio. I don't know if you're aware of this. You being a history buff, right? You know, Eusebio had 5 knee injuries on the same knee, and 1 surgery on the other knee. Imagine what he could have done if he didn't have those knee surgeries, or if he did have them, but it was with modern technology,
Yeah,
because the recovery. I mean, how much better would he have been? Just
yeah.
you know,
Which is, and that's I actually, even on my Instagram page, I'll go back and I'll look at really some of the really early stars of the game. Like, well, actually, if we talk about even Pepe, right? Here's a Portuguese, star that died, super young, super
from
accomplished.
Belenenses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but there's a lot of people that with today's technology, you would think that they probably would have had way longer careers. Or if you go, in the case of Cruyff, or or Socrates, or some of these great stars, where they'd smoke like a pack of cigarettes a day too, and you're just like, how did this happen? No nutrition,
Mhm.
terrible lifestyles,
And they
all the
dominated.
yeah, like George Best, like drinking to like 3 a.m. before a game. I mean,
The Hollywood lifestyle.
yeah, and so you wonder if people were as disciplined. But I think you have to look at every era as, given the whole package that was available at the time, who was exceptional in their times,
Mhm.
right? And I think that for me to put any of my hard-earned money, a lot of it into prospects, it's fun because you watch a game and you see, hey, he scored 3 goals,
Like
and
the
you go,
stock market.
right. It's like, yeah, it's like options, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to be ready to lose it all if you invest in these kids.
Absolutely. Al, I don't want to ignore some of the comments or questions being asked on our live here. Gilles Ferreira is asking, and I think you touched a little bit on this. He's saying, where and when did you get this passion about Portuguese football? And he's saying, because, for instance, Pedro Til and Coluna, they're not worldwide mainstream players. So
Yeah,
you had heard about them years ago, right?
yeah, and I think just reading, just I like to read the history, and then you start to say, you start to make some comparisons, and you're like Kaluna, especially, I feel terribly for, because he was like, Eusebio's not Eusebio without him. Like Michael
Mhm.
Jordan's not Michael Jordan without Pippen,
Pippen, yeah.
and
People forget that, though. People
yeah,
forget that.
they do. And I mean, even if I make another comparison, like Johan Cruyff, he had Johan Niskas, which was probably one of the best players in the world that nobody talks about, and you can buy his cards for €2.
He wound up playing for Cosmos, right? Niskins? Or was
Yeah,
it a
he
different place?
also came over. I don't know if he played there or he played in DC, but he came over here as well. Yep.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right about that. And one of the players, and I'm not surprised I know about him, but Pedro Til, his goals per game average is like something outstanding. Had he lasted longer, I think he would have been a great player. In my mind, he already was, but not many people know about him. Again, like Gio Ferreira says, they're not worldwide mainstream players, but they were great in their time, you know?
And I think he had like 1.2 goals per game. I mean, that just blows your mind. And this is in, you know, first division, you know, the Portuguese league, which is, you know, traditionally always been a very competitive, good league. And he really like overachieved everyone else. And I don't think, you know, outside of the people that are, you know, watching from Portugal, you know, I would ask even 100, which I'd consider relatively in-depth soccer football fans in the US, and I bet 1 out of 100 would even know who he was.
You're right. Yeah. Also, that Paulo Silva is asking, have you ever been to Portugal to watch a football game with some of the players that you collect? I mean,
yeah, no, that's great. Great question. Unfortunately, I haven't watched a football game there. I did live in, I have been to Portugal a couple times, but I haven't. I lived in Barcelona, and so, you know, obviously I went to some Barca games, but I never really, when I lived there, I was a kind of a poor college student, so, you know, the tickets were kind of expensive anyway. When you're
what
just
year
kind
was
of,
that though? I mean, I'm not asking your age. I'm just trying to pinpoint who the players were at Barcelona when you were in college there.
yeah, so actually I was there when they won the Euros in 91, 92, and the city went absolutely crazy with Cruyff as a manager. So it was I mean, it was just a crazy time for Barca because they hadn't won and they've been living. Barca, you know, has had great spits and spats in its history, but it was like, you know, it had a dry spell of, I can't even remember when they had won before that, but it was just a crazy time in the city. And, you know, it was so enjoyable to be there. And then I parlayed that. I actually ended up working for the Olympics when I was in Barcelona, because they were in 92 afterwards for yeah, so that was so it was fun. But those were the only games that I, you know, went to, were the Barca games. And then I went back for my birthday present for myself. I brought my whole family back to watch El Clásico a few years ago with Real Madrid, so my kids could have that experience.
Well, let me ask you something. What is a Barcelona fan doing with a Real Madrid cap?
You know, I did this for you for the Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, piece, and I was like, it was painful, but I'm like, you know, I'm going to do this for Paul, and the Argentina jersey that I got from you as well. So I just, you know, this is my Paul outfit, you know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to upgrade you into this and talk about painful. It was painful today. We were behind 2-0. We had the 3-2, but it was taken back because of the VAR. But that's a different story. I don't want to get into that. We have, I don't know if you're aware, if you follow some of our Zoom live chats, Hugo Silva is a name that you need to be aware, and I believe you probably are, because he's the guy that has already come out with 2 different books about collecting of Portuguese albums and stickers and so on. And if you don't have one yet, I'll get you the latest book that he released. I'll have a copy for you as a gift from me to you. But he's asking also, as far as a business perspective, which cards are most valuable? And this touches on different sports, baseball, basketball, football, or something else. I mean, expensive exports, I'm sorry, very valuable cards in all 3 sports. But you said you started off with baseball. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go into and dive into your Negro League collection, which a lot of people find, at least I did, find fascinating, in the sense that you have PSA even personalizing a collection that you have. And I would just love for you to show some of this stuff. And I'm going to, before you get into that, I'm just going to quickly mention this to the Portuguese guys that are watching. O Al tem uma coleção de cartas de beisebol muito antigas, de uma liga portanto, negra. Portanto, antigamente os negros não eram autorizados a jogar juntamente com a liga principal de beisebol, com o Major League Baseball. Então tinham que jogar com uma liga separada. O Al é o dono de uma coleção muito vasta e até é personalizada pela própria PSA. Ele vai mostrar algumas das cartas que tem na sua posse. So go ahead, Al.
Yeah, so the the Negro Leagues, kind of like what you're saying, the if your skin was black here in the United States, you couldn't play in the major leagues. So they basically played in the Negro Leagues, and they also went throughout Latin America to play.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so and actually, ironically, there's almost no cards of Negro League players issued in the United States. Almost all these cards and stickers, which are very similar to stickers that you would have in Portugal, were issued in Mexico, Cuba, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. And so, I've kind of amassed the most complete collection of these cards. I have a tie-in obviously with Latin America, but I also, just had a great sense of injustice, of that injustice of not letting the African Americans play in the league.
Sure.
So it's been pretty much recognized, and it's going to be on a number of the websites for Major League Baseball and some museums. This collection, and PSA also. I guess it's hard to really see this, but oh, there you go.
Yeah, you can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, they've named this the Jurgela collection of Negro League
Unbelievable
cards. So here's another one, right? And so
Wow.
that's just called a pedigree, which is something that's been kind of approved as something that's truly exceptional in the collecting world. So it's been a tiring project to get a lot of this stuff done, but it's going to be on a number of museum websites, and I think it's really important history. It's not pretty history. Why the Negro Leagues exist is
right.
out of racism, and that's terrible. But the Negro Leagues and these players accomplished so much, and they need to be recognized. Mm-hmm. And I'm also writing, like Hugo is, I'm writing a book about that.
Oh wow, I didn't know
about that baseball section. Yeah.
Really? And when is that you expect to be released? Have any idea yet?
It's probably going to be the end of this year. Okay. I'm actually PSA scanning, all these cards right now. And then those are going to be used. Those images are going to be used in the book. And I should have most of the other ones. Those are just a small shipment. I should have most of the cards, which are about 2,000 different cards, back this year.
You did mention to me that right now you're awaiting, and it might be a little off topic, but you're waiting for, I believe, you sent about 1,000 cards.
Yeah, I have about 1,000 cards at PSA.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, right now it's kind of crazy to keep track of them, but yeah, and you want to know the worst part, Paul? Hopefully my wife hung up and isn't watching. I have thousands of more here still.
I know the feeling. Trust me. I know. We can't let that secret out. Hugo Silva is actually suggesting, if you don't mind, can we trade a book? I guess he'll give you his, and you'll give one of his. It has to be autographed, though.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah. So actually, I think I talked with Fernando, and he was trying to hook me up with one as well. So I don't know if you already did that or not, but I certainly.
If he hasn't, I will. I'll bring it in this summer.
Thank you.
I promise.
Yeah, thanks to both of you. I think that other countries have people like Hugo who do things like that. I don't like it from Argentina. Well, I have a number of these different books, but there always seems to be these passionate individuals from countries that put together. This is one, difíciles eran las de antes.
That almost looks like the cover of his recent Chromopedia. Chromopedia, half his encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Futebol Português, so it looks a lot similar.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So this is one from Argentina, which you can see is like a Bible for me when I go when I'm looking to see where things are. So I love. This is the one thing about the pandemic that I've loved, that we can make so much connections with global collectors, people who really care. Yes, there's going to be people that are looking to make money. Mm-hmm. That's inevitable, but there's a lot of really true collectors that appreciate the history, that want to take care of
the trade stuff, right?
Exactly. And I think that's probably been the best part of the pandemic, is making these global connections.
Sure. João Matias, I don't want to forget about what he mentioned. I actually didn't read, I didn't know this because I haven't read up on Perutil, but you're probably aware of this because, again, you're a history buff. Did you know that Perutil stopped playing at 28 years old because he had financial issues and was ashamed to discuss with the club? Wow. Were you aware of that, or?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was 28. I thought it was like early 30s, but it was young. Like, and if you go back and check, so many players. I mean, remember, they're also not making the money that today's players do, right? So, there's many complicating things, and some people, living away from home, or they have family issues that need to go back. So, or injuries, and but if you just go through, basically up to the 1970s, it wasn't a super lucrative career for most people if you weren't the top of the top, right?
Understood. Going back on a couple more comments, Fernando's actually saying, Al, that he already bought it for you and is ready to dispatch it. So, I'll you would have taken on my gift, but I don't want to step into Fernando Couto's shoes. And
Obrigado.
Obrigado, he's saying. There was another comment here I was going to read and I forgot, but skipped my mind. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Hugo Silva is saying that indeed that cover that you showed of the Argentinian book is very similar to his cover, and he swears he didn't copy the idea. We know you didn't. What I want to, obviously I'm going back and forth with different topics here, but I want to go back. We mentioned the Portuguese up and coming players, but what are in your mind? And I think I know the answer already ahead of time. Two current players that, they're going to go far. They have the potential to reach the Messi's and the Ronaldo's status. Who do you see? Because I'll let you in on who I think, and if I agree with your
I mean, it's see, so it depends kind of what you think makes a player's career. I think it's hard to kind of bet against Mbappe, because he already has the World Cup.
Oh.
He's going to be the favorite to win the Euros. He's likely to be the favorite to win the next World Cup.
Agreed.
And, he continues to win all that. Not that we, think the French league, is like the Premier League, but he'll still rack up all the goals and he'll rack up, all the championships.
And did we just lose Al? It's possible that we lost you. Al, at least I seem to have. Are you guys, by any chance, are you guys getting Al's, or do we freeze up on Al? But anyway, until it comes back, let's touch on this topic that we're talking about. To me, the two players that have the potential to reach the level of status of the Ronaldo's and Messi's. He mentioned Mbappe. Definitely, that's one player. But the other player that I see is definitely Haaland. Can you guys confirm that you guys are watching me or no? Because I know Al's froze up. I just need a comment to verify that you guys are still seeing me. Al froze. Okay, Bill, thank you. But you still see me and can hear me clearly, right? We're going to wait just some brief moments until he comes back. But going back to what I was talking about and the question I had for Al, he mentioned Mbappe. That's definitely one of the players that is up there. And for sure, Haaland at this point. I mean, this guy's a monster. He's coming back. It looks like he's the type of. Here you go. I went ahead and mentioned the second name that I thought is up on the list of players that potentially can reach the status of Messi and Ronaldo. Who's your second? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't hear what I said, right, Al?
Yeah, I didn't hear what you say, but I mean, clearly, I mean, I think you got Mbappe. Did you?
Yeah,
and then I would say, gosh, it's hard. At least, and this is the problem with prospects, right? Mm-hmm. You see Haaland score like he's scoring. And you're like,
amazing. It's a stallion. I mean, if there's one animal that you can compare a human to, at least in the soccer field and during a soccer game or football game, he's a stallion, and there's no other word to describe him.
Yeah, I mean, he is just like he's a machine. I mean, if I had to, again, I don't love to bet on prospects, but in general, I would say, if you had to pick two, now my sentimental heart would say, kind of as a Barca fan, that I'd love Fati to be successful and he's got some great skills.
Does
But I just think right now, if I had to pick two, those would probably be the two that I would pick.
Did you get in on some of those so-called rookies for these two players?
I have some, I have, a few. Again, this isn't really kind of what I don't
Right.
really do that, but I mean, I maybe have like 10, Fati's, 10, Mbappe's, a couple Hollands, but nothing that I would consider even remotely material. Like if they become the next Messi's and Ronaldo's, I'll be disappointed that I didn't pick up more, and I'll be kicking myself because I just, I just can't. Even though I love their skills, I look at some of the prices and I say, okay, yes, it's a numbered Holland or it comes from the Sapphire set, but there's like 4,000 of them.
Yeah.
And then I look at, I mean, even you look at a 1970s, mid 70s Eusebio, and you're like, okay, this is, 50 euros or something. I mean, this is just so much better value to me. It just calls me so much more.
It's got your name written in the back, because in the front it's got Eusebius.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kellen Derry is saying Holland is one of the purest finishers in the world. Absolutely, that's what stands out, at least in his game, is strength. I don't know if you were aware of this. Again, you probably are, but Holland, when he was a youngster, he's still a youngster, but I forget what age he was. I think he had the record, the world record as far as sprint. I don't know if it was the 100-meter or 60-meter.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I read up on that. I said it all makes sense now. This kid in Norway, growing up, was already tremendously talented, very athletic, and had the top speed. I want to say in the world. Maybe I'm overhyping him. At least in Norway, he had the record. But I think for I want to say 12 or 13 years old, he had.
Yeah, he's just amazing. Like you say, the strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that, yeah, I mean, it certainly is fun to watch those kids. And I think another important thing for him, whereas we're going to expect Mbappe to win multiple championships, because he comes from Norway, I think if you're from a few countries, you need to win a World Cup, right? Like Messi, he's always going to have it behind that. He couldn't do what Maradona did. And Maradona, if you really think about Maradona, right, he was the last player to get cut on 78, so he would have won that. They won 86, make it to the final, in 90. So he could have had 3. I mean, he was really close to having 3. And Holland's not going to be expected to win a World Cup, so it's only going to be about club, and he's going to be
individual things, like the Ballon d'Or or something like that. Definitely, that's what it takes for him to get to that level. And a lot of people forget that. I mean, I remember Maradona playing, but one of the players on that Argentinian team, which I really loved, and he out hustled everybody. It was a great play with Bubu Chaga. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
What a player! That phenomenal. I don't know who I can compare him nowadays, but he was a workhorse over there, and a lot of people don't give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, and it is so dramatic, right? The way that 86 happened, but he did carry that team. They were not expected to win, right? Not even close. Mm-hmm. So I think that, but some of those other stars, other contributors kind of get left behind. Mm-hmm. But still, that just going back, like that World Cup to me is still the most amazing one.
It was. I want to make sure I touch base on some of the questions I have prepared for you. I'm curious to find out the typical garage sales that a lot of people go to on Saturday. You don't find any of these football, soccer cards, right?
No, not really. I mean, it's been a long time since I found, anything, like that. And I think more today, it's more like Pokemon cards and stuff like that. So, I think that the new garage sales are all these Facebook pages and all these, groups and people just selling lots here and things like that. I think another thing that's kind of important, especially if you start to collect globally, is understanding that almost every country has its own eBay,
Yeah, they do.
equivalent,
Mhm.
something,
Right.
whether Mercado Libre in Brazil, or Mercado Libre in Mexico or Argentina, or Tradera in Sweden, or Todo Colección in Spain, so these are the new garage sales. And the
Sure.
good news is sitting here in the US, you can, search all around the world. The
Mhm.
bad news is that increases demand, and it makes people in countries that they could acquire things, more difficult to acquire. And I think that's hurting some old time collectors, and that certainly made me sad, because you suddenly have these Americans, mostly Americans, I'd say, recently come in and just with a soccer, with a football or baseball price in their head, start to pay these prices that any one of us that collected football or soccer stickers, a year or two ago, would just be, this is insane.
Mhm.
Um, and that's one, I think it's partly good we have more Americans in the hobby, but I think there is a downside to
Mhm.
being so easy to literally search the world of garage sales,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think we're a few years away from some of the World Cup 2014 Prism cards start showing up in these garage sales, because there's a lot of people that, that was the first release, from what I understand, from Panini America, and a lot of the soccer loving kids started buying these, and at some point they'll forget about them, and you just watch, a few years from now we're going to start
Yeah.
seeing them in some of these garage sales. So
Yeah,
I
like those kids go on to college, and
yeah,
then their
they forget
mom is
about it.
like, get this stuff out of here, right? And then there's a box, and it's like it's like a gold messy number to 10 or something, like
Yeah.
a
True
prism card.
story. True story. I was 12 years old when I lived here in the US, and then I went to Portugal and studied there for 4 years. And I left behind, I don't know how many shoe boxes of Topps baseball cards. So we're talking about 77 and 78. And when I come back from Portugal, after we have vacation, my mom had thrown all of that away. So talking about Nolan Ryan's, talking about, I forget, I try to put a mental block on it because I was so upset. Um, uh, you know, I don't want to dig
But
deeper into
you
that.
still love your mother, right?
Yeah, yeah. God rest her soul. One thing I wanted to ask you, since this purchase of the Pele with crazy amount of money, this is something that are you putting this away? Because I know the big thing now is PWCC Vault. For example, I would be scared to keep that in the house, and God forbid something happens. Is this something you have with you physically, or I mean, did you put it away?
Yeah,
And
right. Actually, this was in the vault. I just actually had it sent from the PWCC vault here, and I have a number of different securities, whether that's safe. I also keep most of the really high end stuff, which obviously this would classify as in a bank safe deposit box. But I also wanted to scan it, and I wanted to hold it, right? It's nice to know that have something, but I really like to hold things,
I
right?
don't blame you.
And so it was, I wanted to hear it's going to be here, very short period of time, and then it'll go and get locked away. And yeah, to a certain extent it's an investment, but now having the scans and like holding it is certainly.
Can you show it again? Because a lot of
Yeah, sure.
people, yeah. So here you have it, guys. I mean, 1957. It's only beta, and what was
Oh, hang on. Yeah, here I was showing you actually a different card here for a second.
Mhm.
That was actually uses the same photo. Gosh, what did I just do with this?
Oh,
Now I got things falling all over the place
it's all
here.
right. I'll keep them busy in the meantime, Al.
Yeah, no,
You're gonna look good.
I'll
You'll find
find it here because it was literally just on my in my hand, and I got frightened that I misplaced it. Okay, here it is.
All right, there you go. Beautiful card. And once again, congratulations on that purchase. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So it's I think what I've noticed, and again, I'll be doing a Pele video where I'll show this and some other Peles that haven't been known, is that many times they use the same photo in
Right.
different issues.
Common. Mhm.
You know, within 1 or 2 years. Um, I can. Here's another one. I know that this is mostly a Portuguese crowd, but some of the early. This is a really beautiful Pele
Yes.
that only
Nice
has
color on
one
that.
graded copy. So I have a pretty extensive, Pele collection. Just I think
Man.
probably hit 3 players that have the most of is Eusebio, Pele, and
Maradona.
Cruyff.
How does Maradona rank up with those two?
I mean, I probably have a similar amount of cards, but I just don't have as diverse of cards. For Maradona, I focus mostly on the 77 and 78 issues.
Those are hard to get. I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of them on eBay, but there's such bad condition that I don't want to get my hands on those that way.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, number one, they were mostly in albums, and so the 77s and the 78s, so they're extracted, so they have paper loss on the back, so they're generally
Right.
low grade. Occasionally, there's one that's in nicer grade or was never stuck, or that they ripped the sachet and they got one recently, right?
Mhm.
So I think I did, when people were focused on Pele, those were still relatively inexpensive, so
Mhm.
I tended to pick up a number of those. So I have many duplicates of those, and I'm happy about that now because they've really, I mean, unfortunately, since his passing, they've really gotten a lot more attention.
Yeah, and as you know, as you're aware, Pele is not doing well, health wise. So God only knows what that will do to his cards. I mean, after he passes, there's a surely those prices are going to spike like crazy. So we wish him well, but obviously we
Oh,
know.
here, hey Paul, let me show you
Sure.
something that I actually got this week in the mail, which is actually, this is super fun. This is actually Pele's last contract.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that he signed with Santos.
Nice. I heard about that somewhere. I don't know if it was on Instagram or what, but you got your
Yeah.
and that's a copy or is that original? That's the
This is
original.
original,
Original. Wow.
and this is his copy, the athlete's copy. So
Unbelievable.
yeah, this
There's,
was
there's no price tag that can go with that. So,
yeah,
I mean, don't
so
ever sell
good.
that.
It's
Unbelievable.
so, I mean, it's just so special. It's like, I felt like since we had already gone deep on
Why not?
the Pele card, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna get this. And
What's the equivalent of that as far as baseball? What player and with who, what contract would you,
I think
match
it's
that up
got to
with?
be a Babe Ruth contract.
Absolutely. That's who I was thinking. Babe Ruth with the Yankees, right?
Yeah, it's got to be Babe Ruth with the Yankees. And what I love, about this is, it's his legal signature. Edson.
Right. It wasn't Pele like he signed,
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't Pele. This is like his real, signature. So it's just cool. And then there's some cool. Well, actually, it's Portuguese, so all you guys could read it.
Mhm.
But there's these cool clauses where they give money to charity, and what happens when he plays a game outside of Brazil. He gets foreign currency. I think it's right here. He gets like $8,000 a game for any game outside of Brazil.
Peanuts nowadays.
Yeah, but back in that day in 1970, that was huge. The highest paid U.S. baseball player made $100,000 a year. He gets $8,000 a game for every game.
Unbelievable.
That's cool.
Do you know what wow means or no, actually, you know what it means because it's said the same way in Portuguese, but we spell it different. Luis Abreu is just saying wow. That's UAU. I don't want to forget though about John Howden. He's saying, do you have any women's soccer cards in your collection now? As you know, that some of them are very valuable. I know, what was it? Is it 2011 Panini sticker collection that's come up in value in the last few years, right?
Yeah, I definitely have Marta. So I definitely have like a high grade Marta, and then I have a few of the American players, but just not that many. I don't have any complete sets or any. I have a few of the American players, and Marta are really the only ones
Yeah.
that I collected from that 2011 set, and that's about it. But I
Gotcha.
noticed that they have gone from completely
Yeah.
unloved 2 years ago
Too
to a
highly
lot of people
collectible.
focusing on them,
Yep.
just like they've been focusing on the WNBA, which I didn't even know there were
Really?
cards.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, Hugo Silva is saying, forget the cards. What is the most special item for you in your collection? I mean, do you have something that beats that Pele Santos contract? You can't tell me that you do have something that beats that.
Well, I mean, it's from a soccer. Okay,
Right.
I'm a card sticker collector, so it's hard to, and also the amount of money that the Pele card, it's hard to kind of think that there's anything more special than that. But the one I do have a bat collection of one particular player who was the Josh Gibson. He's a Negro League guy, and there's
Really?
only one known bat from his career. They actually named the best player in baseball the Josh Gibson Most
Really?
Valuable Player award. And so I have his only bat, and that to me is really a special artifact.
And that is worthy of your upcoming book. It's going to be in there for sure, right?
Yeah, I mean I mean these yeah, it's really kind of a special piece. But this contract, like when I got it, it felt so cool. There's just I don't know.
Did you purchase here or in Brazil?
That came from Brazil.
Came from Brazil directly. Now you mentioned that. Have you lived in Brazil or did you did? And
Yeah,
how
I
long were you
did.
there?
We weren't there that long, but I did live in Brazil. My wife and I ironically went to start a company in Brazil, as crazy as that sounds. So we went down there, and I want to say it's like 2000, the year 2000. And so we only ended up being there about 9 months before our business didn't work, and we had to come back. But
Now I understand how you told me that you do understand and speak a little Portuguese. That's where it
yeah,
came
I mean,
from.
I tried to speak, but then my Spanish sucked, and then I just decided I'm going to focus on Spanish, and I'm just going to listen to the Portuguese. And reading it's relatively easy.
Easy, yeah.
I mean, there are words, that you're like,
Mhm.
pollo, and then frango, just
Um,
completely different,
It
right?
is.
Or manga, and fresa, you're like, wait a second, shouldn't that be
Yeah.
mango, right? So there are some words that are completely different, but most
Some
of the
similarity.
time, you
It
can
is.
get there with 90% of the time.
Just so that you know, I don't know if you ever heard this, but Portuguese is a lot more richer and probably harder as far as the grammar is concerned. It's not easy to learn Portuguese. Us Portuguese have an easier time understanding and speaking Spanish
Spanish.
than the Spanish. Speak and understand Portuguese. It's been like that forever. We kind of tell them that because you guys are lazy too, but it's more in the richness of the grammar. Very difficult. I
Huh.
remember years ago. I was going to say, what's his name? Iglesias, the singer. What's his first name again?
Julio Iglesias.
Julio Iglesias. He did say, and you can look it up. You can Google. He said, out of all the different languages that he spoke or even sang in, Portuguese was the hardest. And you can't believe it. Wait a minute, you're Spanish. That's what he said. I want since we're touching on countries, and I remember the fact that you purchased this through Golden Auctions. Did you physically go and get this actual Pele or no? But that brings up a question. Have you actually purchased something out of the United States that actually made you fly out and actually physically get it and not trust, the FedEx, the DHLs, and
Yeah,
the
so
UPS?
I mean that's a great question, especially with some things. I think that a couple things have changed. Early on, when I had a couple of transactions, people did fly, but I don't recall ever flying myself to go get something. But people
You've heard
flew
about it, right?
to me, and that was just kind of included as part of the price was the travel. Um,
Oh, I've
but
seen that on
now,
Facebook too recently. A lot of that.
what's that?
I've seen that a lot of that now on Facebook. People that are selling a certain card. I think the other day was Ronaldo Mega Cracks rookie. Somebody offered it for sale, and including the price, it did have the flight. You know, he was willing to pay the flight from I don't know where. It had to be within the United States. You know, for the person to actually personally go and get the price. I said, wow, where have we gotten now? So
Yeah, so
unbelievable.
I was working on a a deal in Brazil that would have required to fly there, I think. Um,
Unbelievable.
and in the end, you know, I think, you know, you can also now get insurance that like blanket covers you for purchases and if things get lost in the mail. You know, this last year, our mail here in the US and around the world has been really difficult because of
Yeah.
COVID. And so that definitely, I've only lost one package in the last year. But with these high value ones, I just buy extra insurance
And hopefully
and
that will cover, yeah. But
and then, you
FedEx, for
know,
example, FedEx only covers up to a small amount, I believe. I want to say 5,000 or something. Am I
yeah,
wrong?
but there's third party insurances that
Oh, that you
will,
can get.
yeah, that will cover it. And in fact, in the case of Golden, I think they, like, the insurance was, you know, a little less than 1% of the purchase price. So it's probably cheaper to go pick it up, but if you go pick it up, you also have to pay the New Jersey sales tax,
True, but
which,
here's an added bonus for you, Al. You know, Golden is off of New Jersey, right? I live in New Jersey. Next time you make another purchase that high, make sure you stop by, and I'll personally drive you down. We'll have Portuguese lunch somewhere in a Portuguese restaurant, and you will be all my pleasure. So
yeah,
don't forget
awesome.
that.
Yeah,
That's an
yeah, that'd
incentive.
be great. Yeah. So, I mean, look I can't make many of those purchases, Paul. I
Is the
think
wife still listening in?
yeah, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I'm not making any more of those. In fact, I'm going to be selling more than I'm buying.
I'm in the same boat as you. Okay, I just saw that wink. Listen, I have put on my notes here. I want to make sure a lot of people don't know this, but football or soccer cards in this case, they go back a long time ago, over 100 years ago, right? I was surprised to see at the very minimum. I know there are some 1890s cards.
Yep.
1890. Is
Yeah, the
that the
very
oldest?
first card. So there's Bane Shields from the UK that are from the 1880s. Some people don't really consider them cards. They are odd shapes. I personally love these, but the very first card is a WC Athersmith from 1896. A Godfrey and Phillips, I believe, is it, and then there's a few from 1897 as well. So they go back, yeah, and I actually have a real extensive collection of all those British
Was it
cards
was
from
it
the late.
like with the tobacco and cigarette card? It
Yep.
was.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
wow!
there's a ton of them. I've posted a few on my Instagram, but you know, you'll notice that people will post in the vintage soccer card Facebook page as well. And you know, I mean, there's a ton of early issues from the UK, and they're not as rare as you may like. Finding a UK card from the, you know, 1800s or 1900s is not nearly as difficult as finding a Portuguese sticker from the 1930s.
I got to
Like,
translate that. I have to translate that
yeah,
if
yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
mind. And
Yeah,
I'm going to ask you also before I forget to ask you for your Instagram
yeah, sure.
name, so people we can share it and people can actually witness. Not on a daily basis, but I know you post quite often over there. O que o Al acabou de dizer, para aqueles que não entenderam, é que é bem mais difícil, por vezes, encontrar cartas e cromos portugueses dos anos 1930 e qualquer coisa, 1900 e carqueja, do que é até encontrar cartas tão antigas como de 1890 e do princípio do século XX, portanto, de 1905 até 1910. Portanto, é para vocês verem a dificuldade que é e o tesouro que nós temos nas nossas coleções de cromos em Portugal, mesmo que sejam, portanto, relativamente mais recentes em comparação com outras de 1890 e por aí adiante. Vamos agora também dar o nome portanto, que o Al Jurgela usa no Instagram. I know it starts with Al Ray.
Yeah, it's just El Rey, and then it's
Share.
underscore collection. So it's just
El
my
Ray together,
collection.
right? El Ray together.
Yeah, El Rey together, and then underscore collection, and it's just you know, it's just my personal collection. I'm not selling anything on there. I'm just kind of educating. I'll try to write up a little bit of a story so people who may be interested in history of a certain player, tell a little bit about the story, and then post some of the cards that I have, and usually comment on if they're difficult, if they're not, if they're reasonably priced, because I want people to enjoy the hobby, not just by spending a lot of money, but there's plenty of cards you can buy for €5 that I find very fascinating and very much worth collecting.
Absolutely. Now, let me get that straight again. You said El Rey underscore collection or collections?
Just collection without the
Collection.
S.
All right. I'm posting that so people can go to Instagram, and hopefully after this, a lot more people, not only that are watching live, but also after the fact. We know a lot of people. It's now almost midnight in Portugal, just so that you know, there's a 5-hour difference, and we still have a good amount of people. I guess a lot of them are still waiting for this time around. I'm only going to ask one question, only because we've been a little bit long now on this live Zoom. So, Al, I'll give you the opportunity. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. Let me see. Luis Abreu saying, true, Americans made thousands of cards from those dates. But the ones that Al is mentioning is a lot of it coming from the UK, from the United Kingdom. The majority of obviously the football, soccer cards are found from that area.
Like this, These are early, the Ogdens, there were many of them. UK is obviously a bigger country than Portugal at the time, but you can, and they're rare, but they're not nearly as rare as these Portuguese cards, that you're from the 30s, 40s, 50s.
So you guys heard that. Vocês ouviram? Bateu na mesma tecla a dizer que realmente há muito mais dificuldade em arranjar certos cromos portugueses do que comprar e encontrar cromos e cartas de 1890, que quase que não faz sentido, mas o El, melhor do que ninguém, sabe o que está a falar. Al, I don't know if you have anything else. Let me see. Did I miss out on anyone particular question? We had Hugo was interested. I mean, I'm surprised Hugo wanted to go off topic about the cards and asking you what was your, the relic. I mean, to me, that contract from Pelé. You said it was his last contract that he signed with Santos. So he had already a name. What year was that? You forgot to.
1972.
1972. So when did he come over to the Cosmos? Because I remember I saw him. By the way, this is great. Yankee Stadium. I want to say 76. I saw Pelé versus Eusebio, Cosmos versus Toronto Metro. Yankee Stadium.
Nice.
The old Yankee Stadium. I believe Cosmos won 3-0. I'll never forget that. Imagine if I had held on to that ticket stub. So at least I had the pleasure of seeing, both players playing live. Never saw Maradona. I've seen Messi already play, Ronaldo, but being able to see two icons, Pelé versus Eusebio, and out of all the stadiums in the world, Yankee Stadium, So, but Al, I don't know if there's something that you wanted to touch on that we didn't cover. Like I said, it's almost midnight.
Yeah, I know it's I mean, it's certainly late, there. So, I appreciate everybody, staying up so late in Portugal. I know that you guys also stay up late and you party on the weekends.
Big confinement right now in Portugal. I don't know if you're aware, but the government is really imposing a lot of restrictions, and things are getting better, by the way. At least that, I see the news I watch the news every day, and the numbers are coming down as far as that's the number of cases. So at least it's working. So hopefully soon they'll be out of it, for everyone's sake. So
I mean, the thing that I'd say to Portuguese collectors, which I know are big album collectors, everybody tries to get the complete albums, and it's a very different way of collecting than what Americans traditionally collect. So we traditionally collect star cards, and I think as you have more and more interaction with American collectors, which there are more and more of them, I think they'll be wanting to look for star cards, and it's important to understand that difference and what it means for you and the market for Portuguese stickers. So I think there's some good parts of that, and there are some bad parts of that, as well as the whole grading phenomena.
I was going to mention that.
Where grading of these stickers, which I don't care because I'm a collector, it's a 1 or 1.5, but it's beautiful and I love it, right? And then, this could literally be, $200. And if it was a 7, it could be $5,000, right?
Right.
And so, if you're just understanding how condition and a specific player really impacts value is I think one thing that's hard for a lot of people who are not US based collectors to understand.
Yeah, and I gotta, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I want to say that I'm actually very happy. And then you've seen some of the the last an opening unboxing of the stuff that I got back from Becca. It included some stuff that a few friends of mine from Portugal over the summer asked me, because I touched so much on it, during some of the live Zooms and on my group, and a few of the guys said, Paul, can you do me a favor? Can you bring some of these and grade them together with your badge? I said, absolutely, I do. And I'm really happy to see that some of the grades came back really high. As you know, you saw the mega cracks, you saw and it's going to do wonders for some of these guys, because the economy is not at its best in Portugal. So it really warms my heart knowing that I've helped in that regards, and I think people are waking up in Portugal to the fact that there's a lot of value to some of the stuff that they own over it. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think really, again, for the size of Portugal, the country, I think it's some of the richest collecting, outside of probably Brazil, which also has so many amazing players, but it's also a much bigger country
Yep.
with much higher print runs. I think that people are starting to wake up to some of the value in the Portuguese, albums, and certainly not just the Portuguese legends, but also, you've got the very important Johan Cruyff rookie, which is in that 1968 album.
Polylex, I think it is, or
Yeah, the Polyrex.
Uh-huh.
And that's a very, very high desired card globally. So, don't, just give things away because it's €2 a sticker, right? These are very, very important artifacts, and also take care of condition, because it really does
That's another
matter.
thing we're
If you're
doing. Yeah.
Ronaldo's smashed on the corner, it's just not worth what, not every Ronaldo mega cracks is worth $210,000. In fact, there's only 38 of those out of the hundreds and hundreds that have been graded that have hit that level. So, don't culturally, I know this is hard to fully get in because you don't have the culture of the grading, but it is kind of important, and I think the market is moving in that direction. I mean, as you've been showing with your breaks, and I think a lot of people ask some good questions when you are doing your breaks and you're saying, hey, this is this one, and this is what's going on with the corners and the surface. These are all really important things to do, whether you're buying or you're selling for the long run. That would be a little bit of advice.
Thank you. Hugo Silva's touching up another thing, and I actually had on my notes here to ask you, and somehow I missed it. For someone who has a collection like yours, what item are you missing? I'm going to ask this a two-part question. What Portuguese item or player or card are you missing? And then outside of Portugal market, what is the one thing that you've always wanted and you haven't found it yet?
Yeah, great. This is great. So the Portuguese one that is most killing me is the 61-62 Astros sticker of Eusebio. I don't have that. I have
Very difficult.
it's
Very difficult.
I just keep looking for it. And then I also I think there may be a 61, 60, 61, not the Phosphoros,
Got you the
Eusebio,
matches. The
it's
matches.
like a drawing, but I think there may be an earlier Eusebio from an earlier album. Not 100% sure, but I actually think that may be there. And so if that's the case, obviously that's top of the list. And then outside of Portugal, I'd say the 1953 Garincha rookie, which I've only seen some pictures of. I've never seen one in person, and allegedly PSA just graded one.
Oh, wow.
If it's not for that, also remember these Bane shields that we talked about from the 1800s. There's one of this player. His name is Wharton. He was the first black player to
I heard
play.
about that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that particular shield has also been on my want list for.
He was a goalkeeper, right? Goalkeeper?
No, he was actually a
Oh,
forward, and he was a
oh,
sprinter too. Like, you know, we're talking about
okay.
as well. But he just is you know, he was the first African American in British football, and that's something obviously with my Negro League collection.
Now
You
you want
know,
to.
all these different players. I try to listen to the stories of every country where they fought racism in their own way. You know, Raoul Dinga in France, or you know, so I just kind of I have a sub collecting of trying to find those guys as well. But those are some of the ones that I most want. And the one thing I most love about collecting global soccer stickers is the diversity. And there's so much, you know, that you can go in so many different directions. You can go for clubs, you can go for countries, you can go for World Cups,
Yep.
you can go for Euros. You know, I there's just so many ways you can go. So I think it's just, for me, it's such an enjoyable hobby to find, you know, something. And I'm glad that more people have found it as well. I just wish they hadn't affected the prices so much.
Absolutely. Alan, that you mentioned now, uh, just off of this last Zoom that I did with the Joaquin Lima and Rui Carvalho, someone posted something about a club from 1930, from one of the collections that came out in 1930, that actually had my small town, had a club from my small town, which I had never heard about. And then I went on my personal Facebook page, and I posted a picture of that player and showing the bottom, the name of the club, I believe Real Club of Avanca or something like that, Avancanese. And even to the people, my family members and friends, I posted that they had never heard about it, that there was a different club before the one that's still playing on this day, which was founded in 1937. And unfortunately, nobody knows anything about it. I was like amazed, but I'm sure that club was around for 1930.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, gosh. I mean, I could sit here for hours just telling you stories of things that I found, you know, through the time. But, you know, when we're talking about how the US has, you know, very sad, you know, soccer, you know, history. What I don't think a lot of people know is that, you know, in the 1920s, the US actually had, you know, decent soccer leagues,
Mhm.
and it could have been an American sport. For many reasons, which we won't go into, it didn't end up being, but we actually came in third place in the World Cup in 1930. And
We beat
so, you know,
England, right? Didn't we beat England?
we beat England in 1950.
Oh,
We
50.
in
Okay.
1950, which is called the Miracle on Grass.
On grass.
Um, you know, instead of on ice, but
Right.
where where we beat England, and they were a heavy favorite, and basically knocked England out of the 1950 World Cup. So to get these two American teams, one who came in third place in the World Cup, which pretty big achievement, and the first World Cup hat trick was by a U.S. player.
Didn't know that.
So, and finding little cards of these guys, you know, like the American, nobody made them in America, so you have to go to like Uruguay to find those, and you have to go to like Sweden or Brazil to find the ones from 1950.
Absolutely.
It's just so fun. I mean, it's the search, and then, you know, finding them, and then the stories. I love it.
I agree. And thank you for Rui Carvalho mentioning that the person that pointed that out, that player that I mentioned from my hometown from 1930 was Joel Pereira, which happens to live in the next town over from my hometown in Portugal, by the way. It's called, I think Pardilhó is from, I'm from Avanca, but thank you to Rui Carvalho and Joel Pereira too. Al, I don't know if you want to touch up on anything else before we go, but
I think
like I said,
you give away the Figo card, which, by the
yeah,
way,
this Figo card again. Go ahead. You were going to say
no,
something?
I was just gonna say, I honestly think, I mean, totally underrated Portuguese, you know, superstar that nobody's paying any attention to him. So, like, people always ask me, hey, what would I, you know, be getting? I said, hey, Figo was amazing. His cards are still super cheap, you know, and I would be buying that. But why don't you give one away for free, which is cheaper?
I am. Do you have one of these, by the way?
I don't actually. When I was
I'll
looking at
touch
it, I was
base.
looking
I'll
through
touch
my
bases
stuff,
with
and
you
I'm like,
after.
I'm like, where? I have
It's a
these.
sticker, yeah. That's really a true rookie because it's 1992/3, but this is rookie card. Yeah, that's 93, 94, I believe.
Yeah, these
So
are, oh my gosh, I don't even have my glasses on
yeah,
here.
I think it's 93, 94, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, what? Yeah, this is 93, 94. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So this came out in 1993, and besides this, maybe you have the typical calendars that they
Yep.
had.
Yep.
I think Panini even released them, but at least this is a major brand of Upper Deck, and
Yep.
as you know, these came in both Italian and Spanish. So we're gonna give this away, and because we're already long on this conversation and chat with Al Jurgela, I'm just going to ask one question. It's an easy one, and if people were paying attention right from the beginning, they'll get it. And I'm only going to accept, obviously, the first comment that's posted and what I'll be seeing here on my phone, which I'm looking on the side here. So the question to answer correctly will be, what was the first World Cup collection that Al was able to actually open stickers with his children? What World Cup, what year did Al actually go ahead and open up some stickers from back in the day for that World Cup? So it's an easy question. And again, we should have somebody. There we go. We have already Rui Carvalho, at least popped up first on my screen as 2006.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, Gonçalves Porto was second, at least here in my phone. And then we have João Matias and Fernando Couto saying 1994, but no, you can confirm that indeed the first packets that you opened with your kids was the 2006 World Cup. So congratulations for Rui Carvalho. Rui, by the way, do you already have this Upper Deck Figo 1993, 94? And thank you to Bill McCarthy saying, great show, Paulo. And it was a tremendous pleasure having Al Jurgela and his immense knowledge of soccer. I call it soccer, you don't mind. I mean,
Football.
Football. Well, it's good to know that Rui Carvalho doesn't have it. So congratulations, Rui. I'm happy that you didn't have it, but now you do. And this is pretty nice for grading. I don't know what they go for. I haven't seen them on eBay. But if you wanted me to send a Grady, just let me know and I'll take care of that, hopefully. Al, once again, I want to thank you for accepting this invite and sharing your time with us over an hour and a half. I really appreciate you staying around for all this time. And we'll be doing this again, like I said, a year from now when your Portuguese has improved to the level that you'll amaze everybody.
Portuguese.
Yeah, you know what? I think if you speak Spanish, the Portuguese people will just love it because we do really well with the Spanish language too. Guys, thank you very much. Bill, appreciate your comments, and it's great that you guys joined in the last 24 hours. A lot of people that hopped over from vintage football, soccer cards. And again, thank you to all that witnessed this. Tell your friends if they didn't have an opportunity to watch this live, this will be recorded on this group. And I'm going to try, like you asked, Al, I'm going to try to find a way to somehow import this. I think I'm going to use Rui Carvalho, which was Rui Carvalho or Gil Ferreira. They should have a way of somehow converting this over to YouTube or at least some type of file that you can, share with other people. Al, once again, thank you very much. I'll leave your last word.
Obrigado, huh? Obrigado a todos, huh?
Nicely
Lolo.
Thanks again. Abraço, Joaquin Lima. Thanks again until we have another one soon. Good night.
See you, Paul.
Take care. Thanks again, Al.